Hi and welcome to Linus Napoleonic Shipyard. Today I am going to walk you through the new version of the BTQ Companion App, show you some of the upgrades that are new for 2026 and how you use it. I'm also showing you here my web page. I figured it was about time I had some place where I could just collect all the stuff that I'm making in one place where people can find it. This is linked here in the YouTube on my channel, but also I'll put a link here in the video description as well. So this is where you can see the latest projects and everything that I do, and that's just a way for me to collect everything, because I tend to do some different things. Of course, I do my YouTube channel, but if you haven't watched it, I'm also doing a couple of different projects. I worked on the BTQ, and then I'm working on this fleet builder, like a house rules set for Black Seas from Warlord Games, and then I'm also working on some of my own rules that maybe at some point will be ready. So looking into that as well, and yeah. So and also I just wanted to have a place where I just show off some of my models and dioramas. So this is the home page. Like where you end up when you go to the page. Then you can see the latest videos. Of course, you can see that directly on YouTube, but I just wanted to have an API directly linking it to the web page as well, so you can take a look at all my videos through this page as well. So just different ways of finding the videos, really. Then also we have the models and dioramas page. I'm working on this. I want it to load a little faster, so at this point it's loading a little slow. The page itself, it's on GitHub, so probably that's something with that, but I'm going to figure out how to do that. So you see here the image is loading a little slow. It might be my internet is a little weird today too, so it might be that as well. Anything you see here on the web page that you think is weird, just let me know. There's some story for each of the models, more like for the historical ship than the actual build. The builds are usually up on my web page anyway, so you can see the video about the builds and so on. This is the Speedy and Legamo diorama I did last summer, and some of the images for that. So if you haven't seen those images on the forums or on Facebook or so on, maybe you could go head on over here and take a look at them. Yeah. So, and this is the projects page, and this is the projects I have published so far. I have some more on the way, but there is the BTQ rules, there's the BTQ Companion App, and then there's the Shipwrights Armory, which is for Black Seas. So first I just wanted to show you how it looks. This is just on GitHub, and I've just basically uploaded the rules. Of course, this is a rule set that was created by Barry, and it was created in 1980. So it's an older rule set, but it's redesigned, re-released now. Was last year 2025. So it's a paper system. So I mean, you can play this without the companion app, just with the dice and the rule set. So, and the rule set is available for free here through this page. So if you haven't taken a look, it's a great set of rules for single ship actions, mostly really good. And this is the Black Seas Fleet Builder that I'm working on. I actually have James Dix on board on this as well for some parts of it, and of course I'm using some of the house rules by Modeler Phil as well, so it's all incorporated in one place, and it's pretty cool. Here's the part that James Dix also helped out with, is a little bit new way of just printing the ship cards. So you can just print them on an A4 paper if you know what ships you're going to use ahead of the time, and you have those little circles that you can just X out, and when you get to half it's blue, and then when you start to need to roll to strike they're red. So of course the system works a little bit different as well, than it's a different set of house rules, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. So here we have the latest version of the BTQ Companion App, and I just loaded an older battle that we had. It's the one with Indefatigable and Amazon against Turat Stalom, and I figured, yes, I can use that as an example, so I don't have to create ships here. There's the different house rules you can turn off. What's different, I have the reference here, and that's just a quick lookup. You also have that on the loose pages and how you can print out, but I just wanted to have that in here to make it really clear as well. As you see, the 18 and 24 pounders are the ones with the longest range. Usually they had longer barrels, so they would have the longer range than the heavier calibers. So, and there's a log, and the log is a little bit more detailed now. So once you go, and we're going to look through that, but there's a lot more info in the log available. Of course, you have the option of using the crew assignments, which is a combination of house rule and the rule from the optional rule from the original rules. So to fire a broadside, you need half the number. So they're required as for firing both broadsides at the same time. And then half the number is for running one broadside at a time. So, and if you don't have enough crew for different assignments, then of course you're going to have penalties, both also for sailing, if you have too little sailing crew and so on. That's all built into the app now, and that hasn't really changed. There's been some refinement to it and so on, but it's in there. And I mean, if you want to have it more detailed, then you should definitely use it. Of course, you couldn't change this around during a turn. You're going to have to do that at maybe the end of a turn, and then that's going to have for the next turn, the coming turn. Of course, there's also this option to apply the PVN penalty, and the PVN has been updated to follow the modern rules in the rule book more closely. There was some error in there. And you see at this point, since Tuat Salom can't open her lower going ports and she is facing two opponents, she does get an SB penalty here in this duel if we were running it like this. When we run it, we run it without. On the first page, if you want to grapple ships, you have to go on the ships page for now. I might move this later, but that's how it works. So for the first turn, you can swap around the direction by going under this heading bow direction, and this will update your heading instantly. And this is only for the last turn. This is first turn. This is possible, so you can set up your initial setup. And this is different. It's actually an update suggested by someone on here in the community, so that's really nice. I hope more of you will try it out and give me feedback so I can use it. And so basically right now I'm turning the ship, and you see the point of sail is as the setup, so it's compared to the wind. And then what is happening is, as I'm making these turns, I'm using port starboard buttons here, and I'm using up the turns. And then as I get to the end of the turns, I can't turn anymore. So it's tracking that automatically. So this has 7 turn points and so on. And it works fully now. So you have those. And of course, you're allowed to turn twice in a game turn. But you could do more turns than one in one of those 2 turns. So, for instance, a frigate would have like 8, I think, and so on. So it's all there, it's all automatic, and it's all tracking, so your points. And if you want to run the rules a little bit harder, you allow this, like you plan it on paper and everything, and then you just do this once per turn. So you're not allowed to check your direction more than once per turn, because that could lead, if you don't track the wind then in your head a little bit, that could lead to positions, more historical, realistic positions where you'd end up in irons. If you can measure it many times per turn, you'd need to be really clumsy to end up in irons, I think. Maybe. I don't know. But we run it a little bit hardcore like that. But this automates it one step further, so that you're tracking your new heading. So you don't have to measure it on the table anymore. It's going to give you the new heading automatically here in the app. And this is an update, and I hope you guys that are trying this out are going to enjoy this, because I think it just saves a little bit more time. Of course, you might want to use the tools, the physical tools, to measure on the table as well, because it looks cool and it's fun. I think we're going to do both. Another update is to the gunnery. So before, because of the way the app was working, I didn't know how to really do it yet. One ship at a turn could fire, and the damage was applied directly, meaning that you always had to have a turn sequence, so you couldn't really fire at the same time. Whereas in the game rules, all the damage is collected at the end of the turn, so you're firing kind of simultaneous. I would like both, and we have that now. So you can see here, you can apply now, or you can apply at the end of turn. And then right now you see I've saved the damage twice the long lead to Indefatigable to the end of the turn, and now Indefatigable is firing back. And it happens quite frequently where the ships are kind of firing at the same time, like the commanders, or like in your plan, you've planned to fire at the same moment. So this allows for that. So you can have a turn sequence, like maybe one ship fires before the others, like if there's more, and gets those hit in, and you apply them immediately because it's clearly firing first. But maybe two ships are firing on each other and they're firing kind of at the same time, then you would like to save it for the end of the turn. And that's what I'm doing here. So all this damage, like now all the 3 ships have fired their broadsides, and it's all been saved to the end of the turn. So if I now go to the log, and you see I've gone to turn 2, you can see that the damage is applied, and you get all the data where it hit and how heavy it hit, and if there was any SP loss or and so on, and if it affected the ship in any way. So like for instance losing a gun, and you know that since before, if you've looked at the old, there's this possibility of a gun being lost once every time, or it is lost every time the gun damage number is reached, for instance if you're firing on the hull. But I've also added a chance that some or all, or actually from none to all of the crew manning that gun could also be killed as the gun is lost. So there is a constant attrition of crew with a small chance, and depending on how big the gun that was hit was, how many crew the gun had. So you can also start fires. You see here I'm starting a couple of fires. There is a possibility of a fire starting, and that's also a house rule. It's like a 1 on a D100, so it's very low chance, but it can happen. But there's also a way to start them manually for a scenario and so on. So you see I started a bunch of fires, and we're going to spend some turns aging these fires is to show you the mechanics of the fire. So depending also on the weather, now it's a gale, so the wind is blowing quite heavily, which means that a fire will spread much more easily because of the stronger wind. So it's wind reactive, this. And you can do different things on the ship to try to fight the fire. I'm going to show you this in a moment. We're just going to get some fires going here. So if you see here on the ship card, I can assign a fire party, and I could also, if a fire gets out of hand, I can flood the magazines. And I'm going to, hopefully you see here, so this turn you have a major fire and there's an explosion risk. So that means that if I progress the turn, now there's a chance of that fire actually exploding the magazine and the whole ship going up. But you saw I selected their fire crew, so I'm actively fighting the fire, and I could also assign more crew to firefighting. So I'm going to use my leftover crew here to assign them to the firefighting. It could be more effective if the crew is experienced, and less effective if the crew is inexperienced. So I've assigned 403 crew here to fight the fire. So it's going to be a little bit more effective, but it is very hard. There's a lot of fires going already, and it's a gale, as I said. So there's a lot of things working against them in this. So it's a progressing turn, and every 10 turns. Yeah. So, and also I decided now, since there was an explosion risk, a major fire, I wasn't going to be able to put it out, I flooded the magazines. And once you flood the magazines, the explosion risk, it says there's explosion risk, but it can't explode because at this point the ship has flooded the magazines, and there's no more chance of the ship exploding. So I just wanted to show that. Of course, now we're way past this ship, and that's a thing I need to update, because I think it's taken so much damage now, so it should be struck. But it's still in there, because it's the fire damage. So there's something. There's always small updates I need to do to this app as I'm going. You see, we're on turn 23, and I think the wind turns slightly and so on. So every 10 turns, there's a chance of either the wind can turn, or the strength of the wind can change up or down. And that's also all built in there automatically. So here I'm going to try a grapple just to show how it works. So I've grappled, and now I need to wait one turn before I can go to the boarding section. And there's just buttons here. So now there's Stratslom, there's boarding Amazon. So and basically the boarding works by me just clicking. So I click the port bulwarks, which is the first area, and then you can see here in the log what the actual roles were and the crew that were in the fight. So there was a successful turn there for Stratslom, and then the second turn of boarding the other part of the. So I've done it like that. So you need to take both bulwarks. So you're like owning the entry areas to the ship, so to say. So it's a little bit different than in the actual rules of the game. But so there's 4 different areas that you need control to control the entire ship. Of course, the other ship could also be fighting back. But here it's going really well for Stratslom. Having a large crew with all those soldiers probably helps quite a bit here, as you can see in the log. And so it's slowly taking over the Amazon, which is the smaller of the 2 frigates in this engagement. I chose that on purpose. Yeah. And then here it's failed. I managed to click it twice. So you have to be careful with that. I'm going to put something in there so you don't click it too many times, because sometimes you click and you think nothing happens, and then you check the log and there's something happened. So here the Amazon was finally captured. And of course, once a ship is captured, you want to cut the grapples, right? And that's not always going to be successful. That's another thing I need to put in there, because as it is now, you can do it many times in a turn. I think I'm going to just put in a block where you can just do it once every turn. You see here, I tried to cut the grapple a couple of times. So I'm going to have it so that you can just click it once per turn. I need to remember that. I'm going to have to watch this video after just to remember, so I don't do it wrong. But you see, I find it really useful as it is now. I mean, you get all the details in there. You can track the whole game. You can save and export your game. You can import a game. It tracks the wind change automatically. And since it's a gale in this, and I have a large ship, and I talked about this before, it tracks also that it can't open its lower gun ports. A lot of the rules from the game. So, and there's this enhanced fire rule that I showed you now how it worked a little bit. And then I have some other small house rules in there. So you can use it to different degrees. Maybe you just use it for the movement, and then you do the gunnery manually. Or maybe you want to use it only for the gunnery, which is also possible if you just put the ships in there, and then you just do the whole movement on the table without using that. So you can just use different sections of the app. So that was all. Last thing here is my contact page. So if you have any questions that you don't want to ask on the video, comments, then just send me an email. I'll try to respond as fast as I can. So that's all for this one, and I wish you all fair winds and following seas.